And now to the second additional item, Councilmember Anderson.
Sure. Just to read this one is a request for disclosure of costs incurred or other equivalent investigation or review of fiscal impacts of vaccine mandate executive order to be delivered to the Finance Administration Committee no later than next month's FAC committee meeting, including the cost of salaries and wages, overtime, benefits and leave, turnover, recruitment, training, bargaining, and other financial and administrative impacts to the budget. This isn't a motion, so there's plenty of time to refine some of that, and I don't know if we will be able to get the timeline of that's built in there as well.
I understand. Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. So before I go to council input questions, I'm going to also go to our finance director, Mr. Corder. You've heard the request, and you are the guy that's got to put all this together. So is this something that we are capable of doing in a relative similar time frame as discussed? I think it was 30 days, but it sounded like there was some latitude there.
To the extent that it falls to my staff, I don't see it. We're in the thick of budget. We're trying to issue bonds. I have no capacity right now. To the extent that I'm not sure who else would be able to work on it. We're just maxed. I just don't know how much time this would take.
So, any further council discussion with some level of sensitivity around Director Corder's position on constraints? Councilmember Carson.
So I guess my clarifying question would be, is this something that fire staff would be able to put together based on the fact that it's affecting their department almost entirely without?
I'd have to check with them.
Right,
they rely heavily on one of my financial analysts for support.
Got it.
So
probably not even then.
I just don't know.
Yeah. But if they're otherwise occupied with things to do with the budget, then
we're also super busy with the public safety levy. There's just a lot going on right now, and it's just another straw. This is the first time I've seen it. I haven't had a chance to kind of think about it and kind of process it, consider how much effort it would take. But right now, we just have no capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Councilmember Anderson.
So just some clarification on the intent on this is that we've received substantial input and also a lot of information from the groups of firefighters that have come to speak to us. I have a lot of concerns about how that all fits together, and it's not clear to me that we have a full picture of whatever the situation is. One of the items that was in the resolution that was presented last week referred to concerns about budget, mandatory overtime, employee morale, and those kinds of things all have impacts on costs to the city. So this is more will you please come back to us and let us know that things are okay and that we've done dotted our I's and crossed our T's on this. That would be really helpful. So that's the intent behind that.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
My comments, I will pass for now in light of the recent comments on intent from Councilmember Anderson as we continue to think about this. Thank you.
Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilmember Anderson elaborating a bit on that. And I guess the request would potentially be if Mr. Corder, you think within the next month or so, you might have a little bit of time to give some consideration to what the amount of time and scope would be to pull this information together. I know this is the first time you're hearing of it tonight. So if you could come back to us with at least a little more clarity on how much time you think you would need and what that might look like, maybe at next month's meeting.
Thank you. You have your hand? Yep. Councilmember Carson.
Thank you. So I was just commenting on Councilmember Anderson's clarification, and so, but I certainly am concerned. Kind of back to the main thrust of the item. Obviously, last Tuesday I voiced my concern about these very things, and you're the only one here, so I'm just speaking to you since the fire chief isn't in attendance. But obviously, the concern is that there's a big lead time for new firefighters, and if existing firefighters are having to work additional overtime in addition to what kind of the base level that we already have of overtime, since we're never at zero overtime and haven't been in the almost 15 years I've been on council. So my concern is that council is completely unaware of the massive financial impact this will have. And so that, I think, is the thrust of Councilmember Anderson's question. And it's one of those things where, knowing the information now is kind of imperative to decision making, and we obviously can't know it now. So I don't know what we do about it, but it seems to me to be a vital question to be able to answer. And I don't know what to do about it other than to hope that there is some way to find out the information in a relatively short amount of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get why the question's being asked. It's a totally fair question, and I'm not trying to be resistant. We're trying to shoehorn in budget, issuing bonds, which is being more time consuming than I anticipated. And so let me chat with my staff and with fire and see what we can do.
So before I go to Councilmember Kritzer, and thank you, Mr. Corder, I'm just going to voice my opinion, and then it looks like Chief Shepard also would like to comment. So I agree with the council members. This was a major decision, and I recall way back in the fall asking the mayor and the Chief Shepard what will be the impact, and the word I got back was this was under control, and that the impact would be some, but not major. So I think when something happens like this, where we have significantly unexpected costs, I think it is important that we do, in fact, add up the damage, add up what we're facing, and I think that council should, in fact, be informed on because it's good government, and we make better decisions when we are better informed. So I think that this is an important item, but I'm also very sensitive to your schedule. I'm sharing in that schedule, so I'm sensitive to my own schedule as well. So I appreciate your input, and I'm happy to meet with you and talk about maybe some level of summary that we could get potentially in the next 30, 60 days. Councilmember Kritzer.
Happy to have Chief Shepard speak before I make my comments, since I was going to make a comment about Chief Shepard.
Sure. Chief Shepard, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, council members. Again, Adrian Shepard here, Fire Chief. Yeah, I just wanted to make more than certain, Councilmember Carson, we will work with finance to get that information to you as quickly as possible. But I also want to just ensure that you have awareness that we are going through a payroll upgrade, which has caused us to actually spend an awful lot of time just trying to get the pay and everything correct for the people who are here actually working right now. So our staff is inundated with a great deal of work. We're actually having to bring them in on weekends to actually complete the normal work that we have right now. So there will be an impact, but you have my word that we'll be diligent in working towards getting this information to you as quickly and as best as possible.
Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you, and thank you, Chief Shepard, for that information. I think listening to the intent of this topic, it sounds like beyond maybe, we might be able to get, in the long run, understand as part of our overall budgeting, what pieces, how this impacts it. But in terms of immediate decision making, or at least knowing just overall how the fire chief and department are dealing with some of these staffing losses and changes, it might be actually more useful to just get to hear from our fire chief during the public safety committee meeting about just what are the plans right now around staffing and staff coverage going forward. since that seems like that was part of what I heard, at least from some of my fellow council members, as concern, more than necessarily having to do a large exercise to create a number. But I could see that number being helpful as part of our budget discussions and thinking going forward about, fiscal impacts and planning. But in terms of kind of immediate decisions or oversight, for me, it would be more helpful to just know how we're dealing with the impacts of this decision, since essentially it's moving forward. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks for the 2 cents. Councilmember Anderson, you have the second to last word on this.
Awesome. Just quickly, and thank you, Chief Shepherd and Director Corder. My suggestion, and sort of in response to Ms. Kritzer, my meeting for Public Safety and Human Services is next week, so that's definitely not enough time. And I would suggest what we might be able to get is a request for Mr. Fields to include a follow-up item on his next agenda from Chief Shepherd reporting back to this committee next time.
Thank you, and that was actually going to be my suggestion to close out this item, that I will work with Director Corder to add this to our, what month are we in? April. So our May Committee of the Whole meeting, and I will request some time with Chief Shepherd to inform the council on as much as information as we can get. I would ask Chief Shepherd, are you good with that?
Absolutely, sir.
Great, thank you. So, any other comments, questions? Actually, sorry, I already closed that out. I said second to last. And so with that, I think we are done and we are adjourned. Thank you.